We're going to be talking about Fox News apparently wanting to replace Tucker Carlson with Sean Hannity, which, by the way, is not official. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the details that have came out due to Tucker's firing. We're also going to be talking about conservative media at large, my personal thoughts on Sean Hannity, and of course, another little situation that's gotten a lot of scrutiny recently and why it is that I have not covered it. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video. So Fox News at this moment in time is considering replacing Tucker Carlson with Sean Hannity. Now, you've probably seen some reports saying that Sean Hannity is, of course, replacing Tucker Carlson, but then again, there are also a lot of media outlets reporting that this right here is not entirely accurate. However, this video right here is not just going to be to talk about Fox News, Sean Hannity, but we're also going to be talking about these new revelations that have came out. And all I have to say is that even though Project Veritas may have shot themselves in the leg by firing James O'Keefe, just know that that man is obviously still alive and well.
Tucker getting fired was part of the Dominion lawsuit.
It's part of the settlement. Yeah, he's honest. When it's corporate media and you're beholden to advertisers, right?
Well, it's either the Pillow Guy or it's brought to you by Pfizer, right? It's like,
it's big pharma.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because like we would do all this.
Now, gang, as I'm recording this video here on Wednesday, obviously some things can change, and of course these videos will be coming out on Thursday. This will be the first of three. I'm going to touch back on the Cleopatra thing because obviously some more fallout has occurred. I think needs a little bit more context, and also to go on top of that, you got the mayor of New York telling the people who were complaining about the immigration to straight up deal with it, even though he himself is also complaining about the immigration. That right there will come up tomorrow. And on my second channel, Short Timer Prepping, the issue with red flag laws, that video will be coming out there tomorrow. So make sure you guys go subscribe to that channel as well. I will be leaving a link, not to mention the first two videos that I did to kind of open up that topic of guns will also be in the description box. Now, there out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this. So, Sean Hannity has been at Fox News for a long time. I remember him with the Hannity and Combs segments. Of course, when I got out of the Marines in 2007, I had not really watched any television. But, of course, I was watching multiple news sources. I mean, I was even watching MSNBC and CNN to go along with Fox News. And I always found Sean Hannity to be, let's just say at that time, I thought he was kind of bullying Alan Combs, even though Alan Combs was the lib on the show. But the thing was this right here. It was obviously, I found out later on in life that that's kind of how they played it. It was designed to prop Sean Hannity up. Now, Sean Hannity, of course, is also a radio host, a lot like Mark Levin and the great Rush Limbaugh at one point in time. Rest in peace. And, of course, the thing is this right here. Nobody's really questioned Sean Hannity's conservatism. They have questioned if he's just a basic neocon or if he's America First. And my response to that would be this right here. It's pretty obvious if you've ever listened to Sean Hannity for a while. He comes from that 1980s Ronald Reagan style of conservatism, very, very much a neocon. I had the exact same form of conservatism. And, of course, over time, it's kind of developed more into, how do I say? I would say that I am closer to more of like Tucker Carlson is. It's just with experience, you kind of change a little bit in your ideology. You become a little bit more empathetic towards certain things. And in some cases, you become a little bit more conservative. It's just kind of the way that it is. Nobody's philosophy typically tends to stay the same their entire life. Obviously, adjustments are going to happen. However, many people look at Sean Hannity because they see like the CIA pin. They see all kinds of other very, very wonky stuff. The fact that at one point in time, he was told he could not interview Donald Trump, stuff like that there. And they obviously think that Sean Hannity is in charge of his network and he is the one who's making the decisions. Now, based upon the Tucker Carlson ordeal, and don't worry, we'll get to Tucker here in a second, I get the impression that in the old days of Roger Ailes, that Roger Ailes would kind of allow Fox News hosts to kind of bring on whoever they want, as long as it actually brought in some ratings or whatnot, and it was as long as it was kept within reason. Hannity's shtick for a long time was that he would have a panel. He would have one guest on, then he would have another guest, then he would have two guests on. Normally a lib, they would kind of go back and forth. A lot of times it was kind of played it for Hannity to kind of win it. But the thing is this right here. Sean Hannity's been there for a while, but the question is, will he be able to actually replace Tucker Carlson? No, he's not going to be able to do that. However, there have been some instances that, and I'll discuss it more towards the end, where Sean may have actually been a little bit more on the right, but there's also been issues where Sean was also more on the wrong when it comes to the issues of Tucker. Now, here's the thing. If you were going to replace Tucker Carlson, it would make more sense if you tried to replace him with somebody like, say, Jesse Waters. If you remember who Jesse Waters is, he was the host of Waters World. Now he's on the 5. Jesse, by the way, is an extremely quick-witted person. I've seen him debate multiple liberals on Fox News, and Jesse's pretty well smart. And I'm not going to question Jesse Ward's conservatism. However, what I will question is overall motives. Now, it recently came out that Jesse had urged Fox News to fire Neil Cavuto and also to go on top of that, also fire Chris Wallace. Well, Chris Wallace was eventually, it looked like he was on his way out anyways, and Neil Cavuto is still on there. Cavuto, of course, being a rabid never Trumper, and of course you guys know Fox is kind of going in that direction back more towards the establishment GOP. If Ron DeSantis' presidential bid fails or his primary bid fails, they'll more than likely back Nikki Haley. If it fails, then they'll probably back Mike Pence. Donald Trump will get the backing if he's the nominee of people at the network, but don't be surprised if they're not fired shortly after, and we'll probably discuss more of that here later on. But here's the deal. We also got to talk about Tucker, too, because obviously Tucker Carlson was, of course, fired. He was, of course, let go, and many people have speculated the reasons why. We've talked about this on several occasions. However, some more information has came out, and I'm going to kind of go ahead and let this next 3 minutes kind of roll through. I had to kind of edit it a certain way, so that way it wouldn't be too long. But I'm pretty sure by the time you get through watching this right, you will definitely get the gist of what was going on.
Opinion company. What happened with that?
They gave him money, that wasn't part of it. They say it wasn't part of it, but we're learning that Tucker getting fired was part of that.
Tucker getting fired was part of the Dominion lawsuit?
It was part of the settlement. Yeah, he was ousted. When it's corporate media and you're beholden to advertisers, I guess.
Well, it's either the Pillow Guy or it's brought to you by Pfizer, right? It's like,
it's big pharma.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because we would do all this stuff about COVID vaccines, and we're getting money from Pfizer.
We're getting what?
And we're getting money from Pfizer.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
big pharma, big tech.
You know, you're talking about the shady players, like your buddy Michael Rosa,
that he's the one who's crafting Dominion's message. That's a whole story in and of itself.
OMG News has obtained incendiary footage of a Fox News. Sean also told us about his buddy Mike LaRosa, who, according to his Twitter account, was the press secretary for Jill Biden. Michael LaRosa is now working for a PR company called Penta, whose primary client happens to be Dominion Voting. Sean says that no one has put this together. Well, we're certainly glad that Sean put it together for OMG and all of you.
You look at those little connects and you're like, someone who worked for the Biden White House was literally crafting the message for Dominion. So you're like, of course. So he left working for Joe Biden to start this PR firm or work with this firm whose sole client was Dominion doing their comp. It's like right from the White House to go defend Dominion. So
wow.
When you know those little moving parts, you're like, everyone's shitty.
Well, so
left the White House to literally go take down the news outlet that was being unfavorable to his boss. No one's talking about that.
You know, you're talking about the shady players, like your buddy Michael Rosa. What is, it's kind of public out there that he's at this Penta group. He worked for Joe Biden.
No one's put it together.
You said he was pulling the strings. What did you exactly mean by that? With
that he's the one who's crafting Dominion's message to the public. That he's running their
to who?
To the media.
To the media.
But no one's picking up on the fact that here's someone who used to work for Joe Biden.
Joe or Joe? Or both? Technically.
Worked in the administration.
Worked in the administration.
Going after a voting company. Working with a voting company to take down Fox News segment. That's a whole story in and of itself.
I also spoke to Sean myself on the phone while I was filmed, the undercover journalist recording in Washington, D.C., while I was recording back here at headquarters, and you can see Sean's reaction for yourself.
Hey, Sean.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Hey, Sean. Hey, this is James O'Keefe, OMG. We'd like your comment on some of the things that you said.
Yeah, I was with him the Thursday before he was fired, and we were talking
So I'm seeing, I gotta say BP, because if you say the full words out, you just may get struck from this platform. I'm going to go ahead and say that obviously the Murdochs were not happy. I'm obviously going to say to you guys that Tucker Carlson being fired and Fox News thinking that they can replace Tucker Carlson with Sean Hannity is obviously a bad idea because Tucker was obviously getting massive amounts of ratings, especially in the year of 2020. His viewership actually shot up to right at 5, and that was in the 25 to 54 demographic. Sean Hannity, for the most part, basically is only attractive to those from, I'd say, the ages of 55 and up, possibly late 40s, if you're somebody who's watched Sean Hannity for a long time. Like I said before, guys, earlier on, Hannity comes from the more neocon school. The Republican Party, for the most part now, is officially America First, or it's more America First. It's definitely a lot more working class, so you're probably seeing a bit of a struggle there. But the fact that these right here were also motivating factors in why Tucker was fired, this right does not surprise me at all. I just figured you guys should know this. The thing that you have to understand about Fox News is that they are in a bit of a conundrum post-2024, not just 2024. You have Dominion, you have all that stuff, and of course they have to decide which people are liabilities and which ones are assets. Now, here's my personal theory. I think that right now what Rupert Murdoch is doing is that he is looking at any and every way to try to replace one figure. Now that more and more information has came out, you've kind of given Sean Hannity a bit of a raw deal here. Now, you're probably thinking Sean Hannity would not have survived. No, he would not have. But Sean Hannity would definitely be a lot better than Brian Kilmeade, another guy who's got to throw some sanctimonious crap in there. Another guy that, quite frankly, many others don't like. Brian Kilmeade lost me during the Legends and Lies series when they basically just went out of their way to just crap on the Confederacy the entire time while actually doing actual, honest-to-God research on the Civil War. Not endorsing the Confederacy or anything, but even me with basic history knowledge knows that they got a lot of things wrong. And of course, when you actually research the stuff about Stonewall Jackson, you would actually refute a lot of the talking points that Kilmeade and Fox News produced. Like I said, we may even explore that at a later date, probably through a different channel because YouTube has this thing about only promoting certain type of content. And of course, me, I didn't stick to one subject, as you guys know, and that's why we're just now in the process of getting monetized, which we'll be discussing more in the 1,000 subscriber special. But the thing is this right here. Tucker Carlson being gone is going to lose them a lot of viewers, and right now Newsmax is picking up the slack on conservative viewership. Not to mention YouTube itself, and not to mention a lot of people are going to Rumble. So what does this say? Well, it says that Fox News, unless they find some type of dynamic star in the near future, some type of dynamic young star, they're never going to replace him. I personally think that maybe what you should do is maybe give Greg Gutfeld the job 3 nights out of the week, and then maybe go with Kelly McEnany, leaving Sean Hannity right where he is, or possibly move up Jesse Waters. Then again, though, Jesse Waters, as talented as he is, he's not going to bring in more young voters. But what I can say about Jesse Waters is that he is going to say what it is that people, quite frankly, would not expect someone to say, even though he's somewhat muzzled. Anybody who does man on the street segments, this also includes Mark Dice and many, many others. I know Liberty Hangout does it. They used to do it at one point in time. Savannah Hernandez does it as well. They're taking a massive risk going out there talking to random people. But you got to give these people credit for actually putting their money where their mouth is and actually doing what it is that many people would not do. I mean, dude, look at me. I'm being forced to do this in my apartment here, and my goal at the end of the day is to go out and move somewhere and make overall content in the form of video essays that are much, much more broader and much, much more detailed. And of course, moving out means moving out to a rural area or a much, much smaller area. The reason why, of course, is obviously to keep family and friends safe, those who are around me. That does not mean, though, that I won't get into it with somebody on the street. Of course I will, and of course I have. But look, I'm at that stage now where I'll put it this way here. I'm too young to die, but I'm too old to take an ass beating, if you can kind of relate to that. Now, with that right there being said, let me go ahead and kind of close on my thoughts on Sean Hannity himself and what I think Fox News is going to be going through and why it is that Fox News may be firing more personalities here in the near future. I started watching Sean Hannity, like I said, shortly after I got out of the Marines, 2007, 2008 time frame, and I was watching all the networks because you had a presidential election. You had MSNBC, you had Anderson Cooper at one point in time on CNN or CBS or whatever it was he was watching. But I got familiarized with these guys, and they kind of the ones who kind of introduced me to the news media itself. Even though I had already been in the Marines for 4 years, done 2 tours, all that stuff there. Of course, I watched the news with my family. Of course, I watched, I think we were watching Fox before I joined the Marines. But the thing is this here. Sean Hannity, after a while, I kind of gravitated more towards him because if you cut on MSNBC right around 2010, 2011, the biggest personality I think they had at that time wasn't Rachel Maddow or the Jerry Seinfeld lookalike, as I like to refer to her. It was Chris Matthews, hardball or softball. Chris Matthews used to bring on one person every time to just slaughter him, and it was Michael Steele. And it's pretty obvious that Michael Steele was a very, very weak conservative. Pat Buchanan worked at MSNBC, and I got reintroduced to conservatism through him. I actually, believe it or not, went through a small, slight liberal stage where I thought that the rich should pay for everything, and then, of course, I actually snapped into reality and saw how things really and truly work. It's called being a man. It's called learning things. It's called your early 20s. It's called working a lot of very, very odd jobs and seeing how people really and truly go about their daily business, paying employees and stuff, and why is that lower taxes is always very important. I do agree with raising taxes, but only in certain situations. For the most part, I want our taxes low, okay? And it's not even really a conservative talking point. Jack Kennedy lowered taxes in the early 1960s right after he got into office, and he was what we called a Massachusetts lib at that time, even though he'd be more of a moderate today. Fact of the matter is that I watched Sean Hannity, and I watched Fox News for a very long time. And I noticed right around 2015, 2016 time frame that Hannity, and I had people tell me that Sean Hannity was just basically given the business, meaning given, I can't say it here, but I just edited the word in, that he was giving Donald Trump basically too much. Sean Hannity interviewed every single Republican candidate that cycle and gave them ample time to explain their positions, and ultimately, at the end of the day, Donald Trump just got the nomination. Well, normally you tend to rally around the nominee. I have said this right before, that if DeSantis is the nominee, even though I got my issues with him, I probably would still, due to the fact that I live in a state where the governor is up every 4 years, I'm probably still going to vote Republican up ballot, especially seeing how state and local politics, I believe, is most important because it affects your day-to-day lives. The fact of the matter is that many people have considered Sean Hannity to be compromised. Well, the thing about Sean Hannity is that Sean Hannity is probably more towards the end of his contract, and even if they choose to re-up him during this entire ordeal here, he still would not last long. Hannity was very, very much pro-Trump, and then the minute the 2020 election ended, Hannity had to kind of muzzle himself. He had to kind of be quiet. He couldn't say what the hell he wanted to say. So a lot of people, of course, love to attack Sean Hannity and saying he's bought and paid for. Okay, well, the CIA pin may make you think that that's the case. But Fox News is not going to talk about issues like Operation Paperclip. They're not going to talk about the issues that, quite frankly, would get us in trouble. It's more mainstream. I am very, very much a big fan of Mark Dice, for example. I'm pretty sure you guys have watched his content. He talks about stuff like that, but I do have one gripe with him. Even though the mainstream media sources, especially mainstream conservative sources, are not going to touch these, they're not going to touch these very, very deep topics. Do you expect them to? I mean, do you really and truly expect these people to touch it? I mean, I think that we should understand that we should not expect so much out of them. The thing about Sean Hannity is that over the years, it seems to me like he's been going through a bit of a humiliation ritual because of his 2016 support, and even before then. In reality, at one point in time, Sean Hannity used to be one of the more effective voices at that network. Fact of the matter is, I think that some of the crap that he gets is in fact justified, but also at the exact same time, I also think that, I also believe that some of it, of course, is unjustified. Speaking of Mark Dice, I got to say this really quick because I'm going to make a bigger project. And speaking of Fox as a whole, it seems to me that Hannity's probably going to get, I'm going to take a wild guess to say Sean Hannity's going to be gone after 2024, and they're probably going to replace Mark Levin too. I got to say this. I know this right here is completely unrelated to the topic, but bear with me here. You guys remember that I did some videos on the whole Steven Crowder Daily Wire ordeal. You guys remember how it was I talked about how it was I thought that the Daily Wire was wrong in that situation, and of course I still stand by that. Those videos are still up. Steven Crowder, of course, if you have known, he's going through a divorce right now. Some Ring camera footage was released of him berating his wife, which, by the way, nobody condones at all. But of course, there's a lot of controversy there, and I have not covered that issue for a reason. It's a freaking divorce. Okay, it is an issue where a man and a woman are going through something. We don't know the full nature of the relationship based upon 3 minutes. Now, granted, I do not condone what Steven did. And, of course, Steven recently just got basically another strike from YouTube, which doesn't surprise anybody given the fact that YouTube has kind of always had a bit of a hard-on for giving him strikes. The thing you have to understand is this right here. I did not touch that issue for that very reason, but somebody else did, and it was Mark Dice. Mark Dice, of course, he is somebody who doesn't like either side. He doesn't like the Daily Wire nor Crowder. But I got to ask a question. You see, in that little ordeal where we found out that Crowder's wife was pregnant, and of course it was over medication to give the dogs, which, by the way, Mark Dice made a very good point that obviously you don't want her touching this type of stuff without gloves or being, especially 8 months pregnant and everything that's came out with the divorce attorney and all that stuff there. I find it funny that he did not mention that the Ring doorbell camera cut out about a minute of footage. Now, I know somebody's going to say that Ring doorbells, they cut off after a set amount of time, but still, though, that's over a minute where things are not being recorded. Also, to go on top of this, your source was Yashar Ali, a leftist journalist who got fired from the freaking Daily Beast for ethical reasons. Well, you see, guys, I brought up Operation Paperclip a while ago because Dice likes to talk about that, and you can't hear this on the mainstream news. Crowder got a strike for having Alex Jones host a special. Is it possible, due to the fact that Crowder was bringing over Alex Jones and all these people here, don't you think it's possible that maybe they were going to be exploring a lot of the famous conspiracy theories? Do you think it's possible with Crowder having roughly 6 million subscribers and Mark Dice having 1.8, 1.9 million subscribers? Do you think it's possible that maybe Crowder could, in fact, be maybe impeding on Mark Dice's audience with a much, much larger platform, and maybe that Mark Dice might have been a little bit concerned about that? I mean, I like Mark. I'm just simply bringing it up. Is it possible that all the things that they demand conservative media talk about, which quite frankly conservative media is not going to talk about, by the way, we can always get brand new sources, is it possible that maybe Mark's audience could be tread upon, and maybe that there's a reason why? I just figure I would throw that out there, even though I definitely don't condone what Steven did. I just figure I would toss that out there as a whole. Guys, this video has gone a little bit longer than I want it to be. It's the first of 3 videos. I'm going to be touching back on the Cleopatra thing and also the thing that's going on in New York. It's probably going to be that video that's going to come out first because it's probably going to be the shortest one. Make sure you guys hit that like button. If I've earned your subscription, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please click on the notifications bell. I'd love to get you guys comments. And I will see you guys later.